Tirakurani Singare Sirajamba Singare Siraku.
Every day, women in developing nations face hardships due to the patriarchal structure of society, and nowhere is this more obvious than in South Africa. According to Susan Port from the Multimedia Encyclopedia of Women in Today's World, while South Africa provides legal protection for women from rape, domestic violence, and discrimination, changes in the nation's legislation have not brought about significant changes to the majority of South Africa's population.
We are the World Gender Equality Movement Organization, a non-profit organization focused on implementing economic and educational programs in South Africa in hopes to eliminate gender inequality. Our long-term vision is to combat gender discrimination by taking a hands-on approach within communities in order to elevate the status of women. By 2050, we hope to sustain over 300 female entrepreneurs through microcredit loans, as well as to establish 100 women's shelters for further education.
The problem of domestic abuse in South Africa is significant. 1/4 of all women in the nation are domestic abuse victims, and a woman there is killed every 6 hours by a domestic abuser. With the assistance of the World GEM, South Africa can become a safer place for women.
Beta, mama wakhala, abanga wena, wantenza ukubulala unye. Sakhala ke thina sengene romini yethu. Mhlambi ngalo mini sivuka mama efile.
We plan to partner with Habitat for Humanity, the International Alliance of Women, and Action International. Habitat for Humanity is a global non-profit housing organization working in over 70 countries across the globe. We believe they would be a viable asset in the construction of women's shelters that would be used for further sexual education on domestic violence, rape, and contraceptives.
The International Alliance of Women aims to connect female-led organizations around the world in order to create a global community of financially successful women. The IAW leads programs such as their Women's Leadership Network program and microcredit program, which would be beneficial in helping financially empower and educate disadvantaged South African women.
Our last implementation partner is Action International. Action is a non-profit organization that provides financial services through building and supporting microcredit institutions worldwide. They also provide financial literacy programs in order to educate their clients on how to efficiently run a successful business. Coupled with the World GEM organization, women in South Africa could increase their financial independence from male figures.
The first priority of our development plan is to increase education of domestic abuse as well as sexual health by hosting classes that will be focused on how to identify toxic relationships, how to safely leave abusive relationships, and use different forms of contraceptives. The shelters will also serve as a refuge for abuse victims and any women in dangerous family situations. We expect to observe a behavioral shift of women towards increased independence, courage, and increased knowledge of contraceptive alternatives.
Go to the police station if you don't have a phone. Go to the police station on your own.
Our second priority is to decrease the amount of spousal abuse cases in South Africa. We expect to cut the number of reported cases in half within 15 years by the use of our women's shelters as safe havens for women in need, and by providing lectures to men and women that will outline what healthy relationships look like. We will also provide legal services and support to women seeking separation from spousal abuse.
Our final priority is to economically empower women by providing microcredit loans to at least 25 new borrowers every 3 years, and hope to have over 100 established borrowers within capital cities by 2025. We expect an increase in the economic market and competition of individual cities and increased social acceptance of women outside the household and female-owned and operated businesses.
World GEM plans to take preventative measures towards social opposition to the idea of increased social status of women and the taboo topic of abuse in the family by educating the masses with campaigns and classes on why the organization is required. GEM plans to increase accessibility by providing transportation to shelters. GEM plans to shift the public's view on traditional gender roles via public campaigns and political advertisements emphasizing South Africa's Domestic Violence Act of 1998.
Our budget proposal plan is to allocate $40 million to education on sexual abuse and health. The funds will go towards physical construction of shelters as well as future expenditures such as teachers, maintenance of shelters, and materials for classes. $10 million will be set aside to decreasing sexual abuse cases. The remaining $50 million will go towards financially empowering women through microcredit loans.
World GEM hopes to elevate the status of women, end the imbalance of power, and lower domestic abuse rates in South Africa.